So good evening. Good evening, Sir Pantalita, Sir Francis Pantalita, and also good evening to my group mates. We are now here to sorry. We are now here to have our title defense in inquiries, investigation, and immersion for STEM, March 15, 2021, via Google Meet. So to start with, I want to present our title, which is the Evaluation of Implementation of Electric Storage in Barangay Burgos, Rodriguez Rizal. So to start our presentation, I'm calling Manuel Hamaybay to please lead the background of the study.
Thank you, Jonathan, for the wonderful introduction. The BOS, I will explain this part. And the electric storage will be more useful in the times of natural events or disaster, especially in typhoons and thunderstorm. For example, the Typhoon Ulysses struck the Luzon part of the Philippines. Millions of households in the Philippines experiencing power outage for several days. Most of the people lost their contact or communication due to low battery percentage of communication device. Communication device is one of the important things to know what is the situation happening around us. And numerous households have no light caused by the power outage. Some study that discuss this project is um, feel that scarcity, and also finally the potential of new application of the semiconductor technology in energy storage system is also discussed by some studies. And electricity is more required to use of electric transit or aircraft, automobiles for traveling. And moreover, schools and medical fields like health facilities and retail establishments are all required for power to function it correctly. So the point is that the electric storage will help to less the casualties of the catastrophic event of disaster that happening in the humanity. But because of the limitation of the electrical storage resources like the information and um, and also due to uh, a limitation of the electric storage resources, many people may be interested in electric storage, but it would be difficult to start studying with lack of resources and funding. The last one would be the post-secondary economics. Is it insufficient or lacking in necessity from scarcity because of lack of support, talent, and interest of many people? Funding and support would be difficult to find. Trying to create study without support would be difficult because of lack of resources. Next.
Thank you for that. So to explain the research questions, or rather the statement of the problem, for the statement of the problem, the researchers rather, are expected to come up with a result in evaluating the efficiency of having electric storage in the said barangay, which is the Barangay Burgos Rodriguez Rizal. So we provide the research questions, which are the what is the average consumption of electricity of 50 households in Barangay Burgos Rodriguez Rizal, and also what are the characteristics of the electric storage in terms of capacity and materials. So in order to come up with a result, these are the questions that would be needed in in the study. So in line with this, we have the research objectives, which is to determine the average consumption of electricity of 50 household in the Barangay Burgos, and also to know the characteristics of electric storage in terms of capacity and materials. With these are enough to have a reliable data and have a relationship with the study. So next, we have the scope and the limitation to be explained by Risa Bulusan. So Risa Bulusan, the online stage is yours now.
Scope and the limitation. The coverage of this study is to assess the function and the usefulness of electric storage as a backup energy source for the community. The main recipients of this rather project are the residents of Barangay Burgos, Rizal. To avoid problems with the implementation of electric storage, this study limits the coverage on the selected population, which is the Barangay Burgos. That means the other nearby areas having the same problem will be needing another set of electric storage for their own use, including the determination of the average consumption of 50 families in the barangay and available materials and the capacity of the electric storage.
Thank you for that explanation, Riza Bulusan. So now let's move on the significance of the study to be explained by Ms. Sanki Naperi. So Sanki Naperi, you may now open your mic.
Significance of this study. The generalization of this study could help to contribute knowledge and have enough knowledge about the benefit of electric storage, significant and beneficial specifically to the following. Researchers. This study can help them to find new information for their preferences. Community. The study's main beneficiaries will help them access electricity, especially after the calamity, or use it for any emergency purposes. Government officials. The findings of this study will help the government officials improve their competencies and secure their people's safety in the community. Future researchers. The study can give accurate information and use this research as a reference for the related studies. Thank you.
Thank you for that explanation for the our significance of the study, Sanki. Now let's move on to the explanation of or the heads up for the review of related literature and study by Mr. Kenji De La Rosa and Mr. Jan Kurt Castillan. So I'm calling Castillan and Mr. De La Rosa to please open your mic.
So in this RRLs define the meaning of electric storage, what's its use to our community and what's its impact if it is created to our community. Also, in this RLs define different problems of electric storage like how complex to maintain it and can the electricity able to resist extreme storms.
I'm going to discuss about the definition of natural disaster and electric storage in communities. It accomplished this by first explaining why the direct financial fee, that is the value of what has been harmed or destroyed by the disaster, is anything but a reliable indicator of disaster seriousness, and why assessing anomalous misfortunes is critical to evaluating the results of government assistance. The paper then depicts the actual after effects of a disaster and the subsequent remaking stage, as well as an examination of the monetary system at work. The incomparable East Japan quake of March 11, 2011 was the most expensive natural disaster in history, with damage totaling US $210 billion. Next is electric storage in communities. Researchers present an interdisciplinary examination of local area energy stockpiling, highlighting its expected capacity and difficulties as a critical part of a larger energy framework. The most common cause of a power outage are high temperatures, outdated systems, overgrown trees, and human errors. Power outages can pose potential threats and cause problems in an individual's everyday life. One of those who will be affected is human food stuck in the refrigerator. Since the refrigerator's energy source is electricity, food can lead to spoiled and contaminated food if it won't be able to keep the foods cold if there is a power outage. In that case, it can ensure that everyone will be prepared for the upcoming power outages with an energy storage system that can store energy and use it at night or in an emergency. Thank you.
Are we now finished for the related literature, Kenji?
There's still Ildefonso.
Natural disaster that cause power outages. Massive impact of the disaster that on our community causing massive power outages like Typhoon Yolanda that they can cause a lot of big impact in our country. A lot of people and lot of houses that can affect them because of the disaster that can make him. Okay. Disaster um power outages that wait
So again, thank you. So to be explained, the electric storage. Ildefonso, I think you need to. I think you want to say that electric storage problems occur since there are a lot of factors that can affect in building or making or implementing rather the electric storage. Well, that's a good enough for in contrasting a RRLs in order when we are going to implement or when we are going to connect those RRLs in our study, since we are here to check the efficiency of the electric storage in Barangay Burgos. So let's move on now to the conceptual framework to be explained by JJ Middle. JJ.
So the conceptual framework of the study is presented through an input, process, and output model, or IPO. The input contains all starting procedures that helps establish this study, such as examining the topic and problem, finding related studies, and choosing a methodology. An arrow points to the next step, and that is the process. It contains the planning and gathering of data via online survey. And another arrow pointing at the last step includes producing a conclusion from the findings and contextualizing it to the selected area. And those actions are part of the expected output of the study. So the purpose in choosing an IPO model over other alternatives is that it is simple to use in mapping out the flow or procedure of doing the research in a step-by-step manner.
Thank you for explaining our conception framework. So now we have the hypothesis. The researchers are come up with two hypotheses. This includes the null and alternative hypothesis. So for the null hypothesis, we have that we have the hypothesis that the electric storage will be enough to provide a support in a community when when emergencies occurs, and also that electric storage will be sufficient to support and help many people. So for the alternative community, since we are not sure if the electric storage are that 100% will be enough to support the community. So we have alternative hypothesis, which is that electric storage will not be sufficient to support a community and does not have the ability to provide the needed help rather of the people in times of emergencies. So we have now the research design to be explained by Manuel Hamaybay. Manuel.
Okay. The research design will use the quantitative analysis to discuss the research using a descriptive approach that illustrates, describe, informs, or offers information about the report. This study is often entails the gathering and analyzing of numerical data, um, which is it can be used for trends and average, predict outcomes, and run casual experiments and exfoliate findings to a larger group. A description of the data with average and variability measures visualize the data with graphs, scattered plots, and frequency table. This research will explain the electric storage and will present the reliable information to the readers. It needs to gather more information, evidence, and investigate and clarify and consolidate things that have not been explained. Next.
Thank you for that explanation. So we have now the research subjects. So the researchers are limited, or rather, they limited the respondents in the range of parents and members only in the family who is 18 years old and above in living in Barangay Burgos Rodriguez Rizal to avoid unnecessary data and to obtain legit information in order for them to have a reliable results. And a total of 50 respondents from households in Barangay Burgos will be selected. And also random sampling will be utilized in choosing the respondents for the study. So next we have the research local. So the researchers selected this place, the Barangay Burgos Rodriguez Rizal, since this place or this barangay has known since they are rather experiencing electric outage and having an electric outage in their barangay. And the Barangay Burgos Rodriguez Rizal can be found in the municipal in Montalban, and also the researchers will conduct it or will decided to conduct it the survey, the research survey, or the gathering of the data through online and with the use of Google Forms and other social media platforms such as Facebook, since this is called as the world stage. And also they will conduct it online to secure the safety of the both of the respondents and the researchers, since we are facing a pandemic right now. So for the research instrument titled Average Consumption of Electricity of Barangay Burgos, a research survey, and will also be validated by the electrician of the Smart Controls Enterprises Incorporated, Mr. Jonathan S. Tenerife. So the researchers decided to make a survey, since this is applicable in the study. So the research instrument will consist of part 1 and part 2. So for the part 1, it will consist of the items which has the purpose to gather the personal information of the respondents, to gather legit information. And for the part 2, the survey will consist of items which seek to gather their consumption of electricity in a month, such as checklists of appliances, gadgets, and the source of their life that they need to use in their daily life. It will also consist watts and time on how many hours per day they use those they check in the checklist. A watt is measured to power to run a specific thing, so it is important to it is important data to collect, since it will be a big help to the researchers to know the average consumption of the electricity in Barangay Burgos. So for the schematics, may I call rather Sanky Mina Perrin Contreras to explain this part. Thank you.
This discussion is divided into two parts. First, the electric storage parts and the connectivity storage to a household. This schematic and procedures will give you an understanding on how the electric storage works and on how the electric energy will distribute in each house in the community. For the parts of electric storage, I will discuss first the battery. Electric storage uses lithium as the battery. It has the ability to store energy and to recharge. Power translator, it serves as the passageway of energy going to the lithium battery. IGBT or insulated gate bipolar transistor controls the flow of voltage to prevent overheating or explosion of electric storage, as it's primarily used as an electronic switch controlled by a metal oxide semiconductor or MOS. Diode is a device that allows current to flow in one direction. It is a type of semiconductor. Moving on to the MCU or microcontroller unit. The microcontroller unit is a device that controls the hardware on, or in essence, MCU serves as the powerhouse of electric storage. Under the microcontroller, it has four devices. First is the sensor. This device is used to sense the percentage of electric storage. Connectivity, it is the flow of electric systems and multifunction. Signal conditioning, it is the crucial process for making analog signals. It serves as the connection between MCU to local monitoring. Last is the EEPROM or electrically erasable programmable read-only memory. It is a non-volatile flash memory device of the electric storage. For the second part, Sankimina Perry will discuss the connectivity of electric storage to a household.
After that, wires are connected to any utility services like Meralco to get energy on it and allow the AC grid to receive the power provided by the utility service that is linked to the smart meter that records the information such as consumption of electric energy, voltage level, current, and power factor of each house. In the MCU, it has two monitoring systems, the local monitoring, which can be able to see the general indication of how many watts of energy enters per house. Also, we can view the percentage of electric storage. It will also detect the problems that might happen to control which area will need to prune the energy. Still, it will not affect other sites that are not included in the inconvenience with the help of coordination of signal monitoring with local monitoring who has the general controller in the system. The next one is remote monitoring, which will decide if the house's electricity is needed to be turned off or on. The MCU also has the connectivity that connects with other computer system or any electronic devices. Protection devices to detect abnormal and intolerable condition of the system. EEPROM is a chip that retains its data when its power supply is switched off. Last is the aux-PS, is secondary storage or external storage. That's all. That's how electric storage works.
Thank you for that. So next, we have the cost analysis to be explained by Joshua Donsil. Joshua Donsil, you may now open your mic.
In cost analysis, researchers use tables to present and elaborate the cost of implementing electric storage per street. Cost is
So thank you. As he recall, these are the
divided
materials or
into
the
two
expenses
categories and materials. The materials of lithium
to
battery.
be these are the materials to be needed in implementing the electric storage in one street only. These are the total cost, which is the 1,217,100,565 pesos, 0.38 centavos. So next we have the data gathering. So for the data gathering, the survey was created by the researcher titled The Average Consumption of Electricity of Barangay Burgos, a research survey. And as I said a while ago, it will be validated by the electrician of Smart Controls Enterprises Incorporated, Mr. Jonathan S. Tenerife. And after that, pilot testing will be conducted to test if the survey will work in online since it is online and technical difficulties may occur. And next, we have the simple random sampling. It will only be a simple random sampling to in the Barangay Burgos, Rodriguez Rizal. And we have now the permission of school principal. It is important because we are going to distribute the survey online. So it is important to have the permission of the school principal. After the school permission of the principal and the permission or the valid by the integration of smart controls, we will now proceed to the distribution of survey online with the help of Facebook. We will only focus on Facebook since it is the world stage and we can have 50 respondents in a time, in a short period of time since we have friends and now we have the and after that after we collect or we found the respondents, we will now explain it to them. We will explain the unfamiliar terms and the importance of their response in the study. And they will, in order for them to answer the survey with their full knowledge as a subject of the study, we'll now have after informing them and after them answering the survey, we will now have the collecting of survey answers by tallying all the data, and after that we will now have the data cleaning, and it is important to remove unnecessary data, and after that removing of unnecessary data we will now have the analyzing, and we will now proceed to the statistical treatment. So for the statistical treatment, the purpose of the researchers is to obtain the average consumption of electricity of the 50 household in Barangay Burgos. So we will have the formula of the mean, which is the x bar is equals to summation of x over n, and wherein the x bar is equal to the mean of the consumption of the households, x is equal to consumption of electricity, and n to equal to the number of household. Getting the mean along the median and mode, you will have the measure of the central tendency of a probability distribution. And that's all for our title defense. Thank you, Mr. Pantalita, and also for thank you my group mates for making this possible. Thank you.